Hey everybody, Glenn Lamont here from Wallace Hartley Presents. How are we? Hope you're all having a decent weekend. So I just finished booking my appointment for my second dose for Pfizer, and it looks like we're doing pretty well here in British Columbia as far as getting everybody on board with vaccinations, or at least enough that by the summertime we're going to have enough herd immunity, I suppose, that we can get back to a bit more normalcy than we've been used to, for sure. But again, we can't relax, and I don't think we can rely entirely on vaccinations. We're still going to need to do our part, and that's just common sense. But I think it's going to be a big change, huge change. I think that people are probably going to go a little bit mental in the beginning, and they are probably going to party pretty hardy. Restaurants are already open, and that's even weird, just driving past and seeing people sitting in restaurants, no masks, no social distancing, but you can really see on their faces, how happy they are to be socializing, because the bottom line is, despite people like me, we are social creatures, and we do need that. We need that comfort, and we need that companionship, and all those things that go along with being a human being. And so, yeah, it's looking good on the vaccine front, which means maybe for us who work on the front lines in healthcare, maybe things will relax a little bit for us as well, and that'd be nice. Certainly would be nice for the people who use our services, I'm sure, as well. One serious thing that I really want to talk about today, and I didn't expect this, but it was one of those things that I feel I would be remiss if I ignored it. Not that I would ignore it, but rather than taking some time to think about it, I just really need to be plain and talk about it. So, an unfortunate news story. Well, it's more than unfortunate, but it hit me like a ton of bricks, I gotta tell you. And this has happened before in our past. So, for those of you who don't know, this channel is coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And if you do follow this channel, you'll know that I've talked about this before. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is Indigenous rights in this country, and the fact that this country was founded on stolen land, murder, genocide, rape, all these things, and we've never come to terms with it. And I know that I've been accused of this several times, of being unpatriotic, not just because I'm not a hockey fan, but because I say things that people consider, to be inflammatory, to be unpatriotic. It's just that I believe the opposite. I believe a true patriot, someone who cares about his country and wants to see it prosper, can't do so without first facing up to and resolving the issues that are at the very core of this nation, and that we are all here as colonial settlers on stolen land. And so today the news article was that the largest residential school here in Canada, in Kamloops, the Kamloops Indian Residential School, which operated from 1890 to 1978 was when they closed it down. and ground penetrating radar had discovered 215 bodies underneath that school, some as young as 3. This is genocide, plain and simple. And oddly enough, this is Jewish Heritage Month. And it's funny how people will post all kinds of stuff on, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and lest we forget, and all these other things. However, right here on our own nation, we had our own Holocaust, our own genocide. And no one has ever spoken up publicly other than to say, oh, it's a shame. And even our Prime Minister, his response to this was, he said, this is a painful reminder of that dark and shameful chapter of our country's history. But it's not just a chapter. It continues to this day. There are First Nations reserves with no potable drinking water, people having to be evacuated from their homes due to mold because there's no funding. And the water is due to no funding for treatment plants, and broken treaties, and missing and murdered women without proper follow-up or investigation, and second-class citizens all the way, and racism and everything else. And we were the ones who came here uninvited. And as colonial settlers, colonists, whatever you want to call us, we need to come to terms with that as a nation. We need to make reparations. Not one recommendation from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has been implemented in this country. We say we recognize the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, but we don't, because we don't do anything that is recommended in that either. So we need to come to terms with it. We need to admit that this is our history, as bloody and awful and horrible as it is. And we now need to move forward and make reparations. And we need to follow through on promises. And we need to return lands. And we need to allow autonomous government within First Nations in British Columbia and all across Canada. And when it comes to land rights and water rights and old growth forests and all these things and fishing, we need to allow them, the First Nations, the Indigenous people of this country, to make those decisions. And we need to fund it. That's the big thing. Not just to say, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. We need to give them money to do that. And until we do, it's hard to be proud of us as a nation because of that history and because of the ongoing way that we allow racism and violence and everything else towards Indigenous people in this country exists. So, I say this about many things in this country, including how we treat our most vulnerable, but I think this today, when I read this, I can't really explain it properly other than when I read that, some of the bodies that were found in this mass grave, which was what it was, were as young as 3. So if you could just, if you want to understand the gravity of this situation, imagine, this is how the residential school system worked, but imagine it was you. Imagine it was you. Imagine it was your child. The RCMP show up, forcibly remove your child to be taken away to essentially a prison. They called it a residential school, but the abuse that went on there was not just, I mean, it was sexual, it was physical, it was slave labor, it was taking away their culture, their language, everything. But imagine that's your child. If you're a parent out there and you're watching this now, imagine that. Let that sink in. And then tell me that you don't want to do something to change who we are as a nation and how we treat the people that we took this land from. Well, on that happy note, I hope y'all have a good weekend. I will do my best to be an ally, to, stand up for causes that involve First Nations people in this country, to do whatever it takes to right that wrong. And then we can be proud to be the nation that we think we are. So thanks very much for watching. Tell your friends, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, all that stuff. All right. Peace out, everybody. Have a good one.